please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. Well, looking at the growing concerns over the liquidity positions of the financial institutions, the centre has made a pitch for a cut in the CRR, or the cash reserve ratio. This is the percentage of deposits that banks have to park with the RBI, and it currently stands at 4%. Centre believes that a cut in CRR would ensure immediate inflow of liquidity in the market. Here is what top bankers had to say on the recommendation and presentations made to the government on the recap program and other issues.
जो हमारा करंट लेवल है 2,10,000 करोड़ का, उसको हम लोग 1,70,000 करोड़ पर मार्च एंड तक लाने में सफल होना चाहिए। और ये NCLT 1, NCLT 2 केसेस का जो रेजोल्यूशन है उस पर भी काफ़ी निर्भर करेगा, लेकिन कई केसेस ऐसे हैं जो कि काफ़ी एडवांस्ड स्टेज में है, रेजोल्यूशन के हियरिंग चल रही है, चाहे वो NCLT में हो, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हो। तो ये एक फिगर ऐसा फिगर है जिसको कि काफ़ी मैं credible figure मानता हूँ, इसमें कोई इशू नहीं है।
So one quick question, you said
final question.
The recap plan, the bankers have asked for an advancement. What do you mean by that? But the amount remains the same.
The amount remains the same, but if it is given earlier, then it helps.
Sir, power NPS, what is the current status on power NPS?
All the resolution plans are, as I said, that we have to wait till 10th October, जहाँ पे कि जो बैंक्स हैं जिनका प्रोसेस चल रहा है अप्रूवल करने का, जिनके से उसको रिजॉल्व किया जा सकता है, तो 10 अक्टूबर तक हम लोग इंतजार करेंगे और उसके बाद आपको बताएंगे।
Banks are holding excessive provisions. Say almost all the banks are holding provisions more than 60%. So that they are asking for some kind of regulatory perseverance. Say if at all I am holding more provision, whether I can be given some kind of some degree of capital adequacy in terms of capital adequacy.
One of the indications of the PCA bank is the upfront that it should be front-ended, the capital should be front-ended. Then as far as the regulatory is concerned, we should be in a position to take it up what are some of the relaxation can be given if the PCR is more than 60%. All these things are some of the key takeaways from the PCA banks.
So then the monetization of assets, also government has focused on monetization of assets.
Monetization also, which is not non-core assets, that is what we have to take.
Let's also listen in to what MD and CEO of Bank of Baroda, Mr. Jai Kumar, had to say on the merger process.
So what is the current update on the merger process? Where are we now?
It starts off with the board approval processes. The boards are meeting. Dana Bank board has already met, and there's an announcement to that effect. And as far as we are concerned, I think it's on the 29th. So let's say end of this month, the board should have met. After that, the board recommendation goes to the government, and then the government has to take an in-principle approval to look at the board decision and confirm them.
So, what kind of brand identity are we looking at after the merger?
It's a little premature to discuss about it, but as has been discussed, the entity will be one, but multiple brands can remain. But we are still a little bit far from those discussions. But all the three brands have their own strengths in the respective markets, as well as with the customers. And what has got value has to be preserved.
So what about the branches? Like, are we looking at consolidation, removal of...
Again, a little too early, but it is potentially possible that if you have two branches on a honeymoon circle, one across the other, as is the case with Dana and Bank of Baroda, there might be a case to pick one of them and move them to some other location, say Malabar Hill. So I think we can probably talk about relocation, but that's a second step. Right now, our objective is to focus on getting approvals, then go through the process of amalgamation, get the books of accounts consolidated. So it's a long way to go before we talk about branch consolidation.
So what kind of timeline are you looking at?
As I've been talking to you, it's probably 1st April kind of timeline is what we're looking at. It's a 4 to 6 months process. It is convenient to do it at the end of a fiscal, end of a quarter or end of the year. So that's the kind of data dates we're looking at.
So what is your outlook on the capitalization needs for PSU banks right now?
The combined bank, as the presentation showed the other day, has got the requisite capital. But that said, if the growth is going to be strong, we would need to fund ourselves adequately. So as of now, if you ask me, at the point of merger, I think we're well capitalized and we have the requisite capital to continue the momentum.
Today in the Aadhaar case, after hearing arguments for around 4 months, the Supreme Court bench comprising of 5 judges will be pronouncing its verdict later today. Ashmit is here with what we can expect. Ashmit.
So is the Aadhaar juggernaut here to stay? That's the big question on everyone's minds. And well, it will be answered in just a few hours away from now. The Apex Court will deliver the judgment at 10:30. That's when the 5-judge bench will sit. It will be headed by the Chief Justice of India, Justice Deepak Mishra. They will look to deliver this landmark judgment. Now, keep in mind that the hearing lasted for as many as 38 days, making it the second longest hearing in the history of the Apex Court. And while there were heated arguments between both the sides, the petitioners on one hand, the government on the other, the petitioners questioned the very constitutional validity of the Aadhaar Act. They went on to say that the information was collected without any legal sanction, that this is a regime of exclusion, that this is a regime of surveillance that is being brought in by the government. The government, of course, defended its position, saying that the data is secure, that necessary safeguards have been deployed, that this regime is important to ensure that food and other government amenities are made available to the people at the bottom of the pyramid, and that it's a question of right to life versus the right to privacy. Nonetheless, those questions have been posed to the Apex Court. The Apex Court today will decide, will give clarity on 1, whether or not Aadhaar is legal, and 2, whether or not Aadhaar can be made mandatory. Key questions, the answers is just a few hours away from now. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Ashmin, thanks very much for that. But moving on, Eicher Motors will be in focus today as Royal Enfield has launched 2 new motorcycles in California. Sonia is here with all of the details and how affordable it is. Sonia.
Well, you know, we don't know the final pricing just yet, but the expectation is it will be in around that 4 lakh category, 4 to 6 lakh category. Now, just to give you some more details of the bike itself, it's the twins, as they call it, the Interceptor INT 650 and the Continental GT 650. Now, these are very important for Royal Enfield because we have been seeing, you know, some of their current portfolio bikes like the Himalayan, etc. The waiting period has gone up, demand has slowed down for them. So it's very important for these 2 bikes to do well. The launch will take place today, as you said. Now, the motorcycles will be launched in India in November of 2018. Goldman Sachs, in fact, put out a note where they said that the new launches are a key catalyst for the stock. It's a big leap forward in terms of the company's engineering, quality and design capabilities. They are also offering 40 accessories with a 2-year warranty, and this should increase a revenue share from their accessories. Now, currently, accessories as a contribution of total revenues is at about 3.6%, but the scope is larger because if you compare it with peers, say Harley Davidson, for example, has accessories at 16% of their overall contribution. So there is a larger pie of revenues that they can earn from the accessory space. Goldman Sachs has reiterated a buy. They have a target price of 34,000 on the stock.
We have Manisha Gupta joining in now to tell us all of the cues she's watching out for from the commodity and currency space. Manisha, morning.
Hi, morning, and thank you so much for that. Well, we have seen the crude oil price has come off its highs. It had been a one-way upline that we saw in the prices, and the fundamentals still are on the stronger side. But the buying, of course, has led to some profit-taking, and also some. The U.S. president also seems to be talking down the crude oil prices, as he says that before the Iran sanction deadline comes on 4th of November, the U.S. or he will ensure that there are enough supplies in the global markets. How he's going to do that is clearly not clear, but the statement itself has led to some profit-taking. Apart from that, the markets also would watch out for the U.S. Fed meeting announcement today in the evening. While 25 basis points has been factored in, it really is going to be about the guidance going forward. There have been various reports from international banks saying that this perhaps could be the last interest rate hike for this year. That has been weighing on the U.S. dollar. So the currency play is going to be quite important to watch out for. One quick word on the metal space. We have seen the steel, iron ore, and the metal prices continue to decline yet again in Shanghai, and this is because of the escalating concerns between U.S. and China trade problems. So that is another sector to keep an eye on in the markets today.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Manisha. Well, let's tell you about how the derivative action shaped up. Now, in yesterday's trading session, we had a massive recovery from the low point of the day. In terms of cash market, well, the DIs, they pumped in a lot of money, and that was more than enough to offset the FI selling. So both those two numbers should come up for you. FI selling 1,200 crores, DIs buying nearly around 2,200 crores. But what were the FIs doing in the F&O markets? To give you a gist of that, they added shorts on the index futures. They also bought some calls. But importantly, they wrote calls and they wrote it rather aggressively. Well, we were in a bit of an oversold territory because the Nifty had already corrected nearly around 550 points from the high point. And in fact, the PCR had moved all the way to around 1. Multiple times in the past, you've seen when the PCR moves towards 1, we see a bit of a bounce from there. And when it moves to around 1.7, 1.8, that's from where we see a bit of a correction. Now, in yesterday's trading session, the premium on the Nifty futures, that contracted. But remember, we're getting into expiry. So, the futures and the spot rate, they have to converge. So, that's one factor that played out. But if you look at the FI data, last few days, they've been taking contra long calls. In yesterday's trading session, they added some shorts. They added nearly around 5,000, 4,000 contracts on the short side, 4,700 contracts approximately. They net short on the index, but yesterday after a while, they added close to around 4,700 contracts. What do they do in the option space? Well, they bought more calls than puts. They bought nearly around 16,000 call contracts. That compares with around 8,000 put contracts. So in short, they bought 2 calls for every 1 put in yesterday's trading session. Overall, though, they bought far more puts than calls. So in case we move lower, there is some cushion on the downside. But remember, in an uptrending market, when you see the FIs adding shorts, and they also wrote calls very, very aggressively yesterday. More than 20,000 contracts were written on the call side. That's telling you, the belief is that we're getting to the upper end of this bounce, and the SGX Nifty is suggesting a bounce of around 40-50 points odd. Those strong bears already, they'll come in to short the index. What are you looking at in terms of stocks? DHFL, that's the new stock in the F&O ban. So keep an eye out on that stock. It's been all over the place. The stock that's come out of the ban is Adani Enterprises, so keep an eye out on that one. 11,000 mark, extremely crucial. Highest, put open interest is at that particular level. So what are the levels you're looking at? The bulls will, they'll feel they can defend the 10,866 mark. That's the recent low that we saw. Well, any kind of bounce will give the strong bears, a lot of conviction that they can go ahead and short the index. If they were shorting it around 10,950, if they're getting it around 11,100, that'll be, a good level for the strong bears.
Okay, all right, Nigel. So that's the cues from the F&O space. But on to our bullseye corner this morning. Contestants this week are Samit Chavan, Gaurav Ratnapariki and Gaurav Bissa, who are battling it out for the strongest portfolio. Let's listen into their picks.
Our first call is a buy call on Balrampur Chini for a target of 91, stop loss at 77. Second buy would be on Jindal Steel for a target of 240, stop loss 219. Our third buy would be a buy call on Vocard for a target of 605, stop loss 542. And final call would be a buy call on Repco Home for a target of 478, stop loss at 439.
I have a buy call on Sriram Transport Finance. Stop loss 1148 and target on the upside at 1225. The next one is a buy call on Tata Global. Stop loss placed at 230 and target at 246. The third one is also on the long side. That is Ramco Cement with stop loss at 640 and target at 683. The last one, however, is on the short side, and that is Concord Futures with stop loss at 627 and target at 588.
The first recommendation today would be buy on Adani Enterprise for target price of 145, keeping the stop loss at 134. Buy on Praj Industries for target price of 114, keeping the stop loss at 106. Buy on KNR Constructions for target price of 215 with the stop loss at 203. The final and sole sell recommendation would be on Arvind for target price of 336, keeping the stop loss at 350.